This is just going to be a quick class on the RSI. And if you guys are not familiar with the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, this will be a nice little introduction to that. And I'm just going to go over a few tips on how I use it whenever I'm trading. I used to use the RSI very often, and we use it quite often in our code when we're developing different types of indicators. So if you guys are interested in learning this, I think this is going to be a great introduction to the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. And again, just a few pointers of how I use this. So we'll dive into this in just a minute here. Yes, exactly. It's exactly that. It's going to be the oversold and overbought condition. So if you ever heard someone say, oh, this is overbought or this is oversold, then a lot of times they are referring to the Relative Strength Index. Now, it's not the only way to determine if the price is too high or too low, right? It's not the only way to determine that. So, of course, we always say, combine that with other indicators or technical breakouts to really add conviction. But we'll go over just a quick rundown on how I use it. All right, we're going to get started here. Let me pull up the watch list because I want to go over a few of the names that were hitting the watch list and were on there recently. Let's see. We had BNRG is a good one. Let's check out BNRG. So BNRG, I'm on a 1-minute chart right now. I'm going to pull up the RSI. In order to pull up the RSI, what you do is go to the indicators. If you go to the technicals tab and just start typing the relative strength index right there, or you can just type in, I think you can type in RSI as well. It should come up. Well, you're going to see a number of others here. So just do the relative and then relative strength index right there. So go ahead and put that onto your charts. That's going to add this oscillator down here, this line that goes up, down, right? A couple lines here. For me, I don't use the moving average line on this often myself. This is a moving average that you'll see here, this yellow line. So let me blow this up. I'm going to double click on this down here. You can actually blow up the RSI. You can scroll on the side up and down to expand it or shorten this view here. So what we're seeing here, just to give a real quick, easy rundown, what this is saying, this RSI is a line, it's an oscillator is what they call it. Once it comes below a certain area, it's becoming oversold. And a lot of times, typically, traders look for a bounce from there and for it to kind of pull back up. So if short sellers are in their position, they may be covering their position, which means they're buying, which gives it a little buy pressure, right? Some traders look for this as a buy signal in general. So there's a number of ways you can use the RSI to determine if this price is too low or too high, basically. We'll keep it real simple. I'm going to remove the yellow line that you see here. This is going to be that moving average. So if I double click on this, or if I double click on the indicator itself, I'll go ahead and do it up here. You can open up the settings, and we can see that the length is set to 14. We're going to adjust that in just a minute. And you can see that we have the, it looks like a smooth moving average or a simple moving average. I'm going to turn that off. So RSI based moving average. Going to turn that off. I don't use it. You can use it. You can find some value there. I don't use it. In previous years using this, it wasn't on there. This is something that's not new, but a little bit newer, right? So I've gotten accustomed to using the RSI without that. So I'm going to turn that off. The Bollinger Bands, I don't see these on the chart right now, so I'm just going to hit OK. We remove the yellow line. Okay, great. What you're seeing here is because we're above, we're seeing this little green area. That's, again, in the settings. That's something newer. Before years past, we didn't have that. We didn't have this it's basically glowing once it gets above. That's pretty cool. It's nice to have on there. I won't turn that off. I'm going to leave that on. And I'm going to leave that. And that's basically saying that you're above an area, and it's giving you that indication there. And we should see some red if we go below as well, but I'm not seeing any examples here. Here's some that's below. There we go. There's the red there. So you guys can see that. So whenever we get below, it's red. So I'm going to reset this. Just right-click, reset. And again, if you're confused on what we're looking at, it's the RSI. I can double-click on and off of it, right? This is the RSI. Double-click. It blows it up. Double-click. It turns it back to underneath the chart. You can move this anywhere you want. So if you want this up top, you can do that just by hitting that arrow, and you can move it to the top. Typically, it's going to be at the bottom. We're just going to leave it the way it is for now. When we're trading on different time frames, you're going to see different results. So what this is saying, again, guys, is very simple, explanation here. Once we get above this dotted line you see here at the top, so if I double click again, once we get above this double line, it is overbought. And a lot of traders look at that as, in other words, the price is extended. And so it could start to fall or fade back down, right? Or maybe offer a short entry. Maybe it's a good area to take profit, right? There's many different ways you could perceive this, but that's going to be a signal basically letting you know that the RSI, a technical indicator here, is showing a value that is now above this dotted line. Now, this is a very general way of looking at this RSI. So RSI here, 70 and 30. Those are going to be the two numbers. So if we get below 30, so this dotted line below here is 30, and this dotted line at the top is 70. And so what it's saying is once the RSI value, so if I double click here, as I hover over, if I zoom in, you guys will notice as I zoom in here, it's a little easier to see. You can see if I hover over this candle, you can see the values right here changing. So the RSI values right here will be changing as I hover over each candle. What you can see here is that we are at 73, right? So you can see that. And I'll draw a line to make it easier. So Alt-V to draw a line there just to keep that on the chart. Now, as I hover over that line, you're going to see that this value is above 70. So if I hover over, there it is, 73. So in other words, it's above this dotted line, right? So it's basically saying, hey, you know, it's a little extended, it's overbought, maybe it needs a little breather, a retrace. If you're in the position, maybe it's good to lock in some profit, right? That's how we look at these things, these signals, and you can combine this with other signals. So this is just one of many signals that's out there and available, but the RSI is a very much used indicator for many traders. And again, it can be built into other ways of looking at this stock. You don't have to just use the RSI by itself. Of course, we always recommend, you know, using this in conjunction with other technical indicators or indication that's telling you that the stock is overbought, oversold, so that we build this into basically a condition. So this is one of many conditions you can have. So you can see on this candle, it peaked, and all of a sudden we did get those red candles, and we did get a retrace back down. So, you know, if you were in this position and you saw this happen and you took profit, you know, it then did go up maybe about 1% there, but it came back down right here. If it came back down to about 19%. So, of course, it did then later on continue up further, right? And that's fine. Maybe there's a buy signal in here. We'll look around. But what this is saying is that this was a good area to take some profit, and it was a good area to take profit, right? Because as we pulled back, we pulled down 19%. So if someone took this trade, you know, they're in this trade on this break here, well, maybe you got yourself a 26% trade, 35 cents per share. For a lot of traders, that's enough, right? A lot of traders are not going to sit there trading all day long. Now, some traders will. You know, it's really every trader is going to be a little bit different, right? We're all looking for different things to get out of the market. Myself, when I got into trading, it was more important that I was getting into it for financial freedom. I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted to spend less time working my normal, everyday type of day job, right? I wanted to be able to get in, green, out, and just get out of the market where I can feel safe that the market's not going to get my money back. And I can then enjoy my life and enjoy my time, right? A lot of times now I'm spending time coding and enhancing different aspects to our Discord, the value that we add, because this is an educational type of Discord. This is what we're here for. We're trying to teach others what we've learned over the years, right? And we're trying to explain it in a very simplistic way. So to keep it simple, guys, really simple, this line and oscillator is telling you when it's overbought and oversold. And you can see that this line down here, I'll draw another line on this candle, Alt-V. You'll see that this line is almost below that 30 line, right? So almost below. Didn't quite get below, but if I hover over, you can see it technically did. 29, if you see the numbers, 29.9, right? So it, technically speaking, did get below. And let's zoom in on that. Let's just see if we can see that. And you can adjust it like this. Hard to see, right? But you can see that it did get below that line, right? And that's basically what it's telling us. So again, to keep things simple, get back adjusted here. To keep things simple, you can see on this chart that this was saying that it is oversold and maybe a signal that it could basically bounce, or shorts could start covering their position and get a little buying pressure here. And you can see that this was overbought. So this was a really nice window to capture a move, right? And again, this is one of many signals that you can have available that's going to allow you to really spot something like that. Now, you're going to see that it then came back down and it bounced here and it continued up. Now, this is going to be something where, you're going to say, oh, well, it's not perfect. Well, nothing is perfect, right? There's absolutely nothing in this market that's perfect. If there was, we'd all be just using that over and over, and I'm not sure the market would really love that. So for an example, if I zoom in on this area here, you can see that this line, the oscillator line, the RSI, is getting above that 70 line, that general rule of thumb saying, you know what, we're overbought up here, oversold down here. So too far sold, too far bought, right? So right here, we peaked up again. Okay, we'll retrace back down. Okay, great. Now we peaked up again on this candle. Okay, we retrace back down. But then before you know it, you're all the way back up here and you're continuing higher. Now we did get a breather candle once this happened here, so we're above again, breather candle, but then continued. So it's not used to completely, spot the top of the move, right? I don't know of anything myself that's really going to tell you and give you that prediction where it's going to say, you know what, if it started here, it's going here, and that's it, right? That's just, it's plain, it's in the sand, it says that's what's happening. So it's not always perfect, right? It can chop up here, and you can see that it dipped down here, did not get oversold, but yet retraced back up for a nice move. So you can see this right here. So this was a nice move to capture, right? If anybody captured this move, we're looking at 29%, 50 cents per share. A really nice move to capture, right? But it wasn't oversold. So if you're just trading this one indicator, then maybe it's not giving you that signal for this type of move, which is okay. Maybe you're just trading the extreme signals only, and that's absolutely fine. So then over here, here's another example. Here's a good example. Let's zoom in here. So we got ourselves a signal here saying that it is overbought, right? Or excuse me, oversold. So down here on the RSI, I'll move this down a little bit. You can see that it's below that line. And let me draw a line here to make it easier. So you can actually draw lines on the relative strength index here in TradingView. This is one of the things I love, guys. So Alt H. I'll draw the lines, Alt H. So now it's just easier to see, right? Just easier to see that line is below and above. And you can adjust the colors. You can actually adjust that line in here too. So you don't have to have that line as, I believe it's a dotted line. Yes. Here's the setting, 70, 30, middle line at 50. I don't use the middle line or middle band as much, so I can turn that right off. You can see this dotted line's turning off, right? So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to turn that off, keep it very clean. We already got the lines on there because I drew them on there. If you didn't want to draw them on there, I go in here and delete these lines, right? Then you can go into the settings. So if you don't want to draw on the RSI, you can do that as well. You can just come in here and you can have this always set the way you want it. So, okay, we want a dotted line. There we go. And let's thicken up the line as well. Let's turn it to white, and let's go ahead and make it a thick line so that way it's easier to see. And I'll do the same for the lower band as well. So white, dotted line, and we'll thicken it up down here. So just going into the settings under style and changing that. And it looks like I did not change it to a line yet. There we go. So now you can see very easy, okay, this is oversold, this is overbought. Anything above is, basically a red flag. Anything below is a red flag, right? But you can see that if I draw a line here on this chart, and I draw a line here, draw a line here. Here's a good example over here we'll go over in just a minute. But you can see that it gave a little move. So at the bottom of this candle, at the close of this candle, which this is the open, this is the close because it's a red candle. It closed down here and then moved up here. It's not much, right? But if you're buying, then it's making a move like this, about 6%. But now, guys, keep in mind, there's something about this. Keep in mind that this candle next, after this close, once you got that signal, this was the candle that you would be possibly buying on, right? This line, or this candle here, if I zoom in, let me zoom in on this, make it easier to see. This line right here, even though it closed here, you may not get filled there because this candle opened here. That's where the open is, okay? So the bottom of the candle, if it's a green candle, the bottom's the open. If it's a red candle, the top is the open, okay? So this is the open. So opened up here. So technically speaking, you're not getting filled down here if you're trying to get filled on this. So not all of these signals are going to be, the best, right? So you got to combine that with volume, combine that with, maybe the MACD or maybe the stochastic or maybe multiple conditions before you see something here that's possibly tradable, right? So you have to be a little bit realistic here. So even though it closed down here, you're not getting filled there. You're getting filled up here. So if you're getting filled here and you're making this move, it's about 3, almost 4%, not even 10 cents per share. So again, this is not a very strong type of signal. And it's not a full reversal either. We're going to make that very clear. This is not, the RSI is not giving you that full reversal type of strength and move, it's giving you an idea that, hey, it may bounce. It may shorts may cover. Or again, if you're in short, maybe you're a short seller, which a lot of our traders are, that's fine. Maybe this is a good area to start taking some profit, right? It starts coming down. It's a little extended. Okay, we can start covering our short positions, and you can see the buy pressure here. Now, it continued to fade back off over here. That's fine. And then it continued over here as well. This is another one here, which is not a great signal, but it's not bad, right? Because this one opened up right here, so opened right at the candle. So say you got filled here if there was volume permitting. You can see that this moved up about 12 cents per share and almost 7%. It's not bad. These are minute candles, right? This is a minute chart, minute RSI, so that's not bad, right? Within minutes, you can get yourself a nice little win. Here's a good example of the RSI was oversold. It went underneath this line and level, right? You just start smashing the buy just because, and it did not get back above. So if you're buying on this next candle, you have to suffer a small loss here down to these lows. It's down 6 cents and about 4% per share. Now, this is a very minor example. This could be way worse, guys. We have seen it where it starts to sell off. Then all of a sudden an offering comes out. It's starting to show the RSI is telling you, hey, maybe it's a buy. And then all of a sudden an offering comes out and boom, it just drops 40% in a single candle. And you're scratching your head being like, man, what's going on here? The RSI is literally telling me that this is oversold. It should bounce back up, right? We can't lean on it that much. It's not, again, it's not something you want to trade by itself. It's just one of many ways you can really depict if this stock is oversold, overbought. Will it bounce? Will it not? Right? There's going to be one of many conditions and combinations. Now, in theory, this thing did curl back up. So if you bought this curl here or you bought this low and you suffer this, well, it did curl back up. But you have to have a game plan, just like anything else. Anything that we do, we have to have a strategy, right? So a lot of our indicators might plot a zone or might plot an area. So you can plot an area of value here and say, you know what? If it can hold above that, great. If not, maybe I can put my stop. Maybe I have an arbitrary stop loss, and I'm going to say, you know what? If it goes down from here more than, say, 10%, I'll give it a lot of room. It's not my best setup, so I'm reducing my size. Give it a little bit of a room or room cushion, I like to say, on the low side, right? And so if you went down, this is an 8% here. So if you gave that 8% window, then sure, it curled back up. But you have to stick to your strategy, right? If you're going to be putting an 8% stop loss or a 10%, you have to stick to that, right? So if you're not sticking to that, that's going to get you in a lot of trouble because, again, this is a very minor example. We have seen plenty of times where the RSI is oversold, right? It's down here below this line, but then all of a sudden it continues to fade off and continues to go down, right? So it can happen, right? Those dips can keep on dipping. So over here, here's a good example as well. Right here, it did not peak over the overbought. So it wasn't overbought. So, if you're just trading the RSI, you're wondering, well, why did it retrace all the way back down? Why is it continuing to fade all the way back down here and just go to, nowheresville, right? Well, again, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect, guys. Nothing is perfect. So you want to make sure that you're sticking to, a number of things combined here. But the RSI is one of the most useful tools I found in my years of experience in trading as a raw indicator. Now, we're going to go over something here. I'm going to reset the chart, zoom back out. I'm going to get rid of these lines that I have drawn on here. So I'll hit the trash can here, and we'll go ahead and remove the drawings. Okay. So now, one thing I want to show you guys that's really cool is you can change the settings of the RSI. So the settings in the RSI, this is based on, if you go to the inputs, and the way I did that, guys, just double-click on the RSI here. Just double-click on that, and it opens right up. If you don't want to do that, you can double-click on the line. It'll open it up. You can double-click on the line itself, the purple line there. You can change the color of the line, guys. You can do all that. You can change it if you want it, white, or if you want it, whatever, you can do that. So I'm going to cancel just to keep it. We'll keep it white to make it easier to see for you guys. I think that's easier to see in the video as well. The RSI settings here. So we have this on a 14 length for the settings. That means it's going over the 14 data points for that time frame. So this is going to switch for each time frame that you're on. So that's something that's really important. Right now we're looking at the RSI on a 1-minute chart, right? So this is 1-minute signals on the RSI with the 14 length. You can change the time frame up here, so to a 2-minute. Let me draw a line here. Let me go ahead and draw a line right there. That's going to be our peak, and this will be another peak. We'll do this as our low. So that was our peak and our low. So we'll just look at this area as an example. So look what happens when I change it to a, let's say, a 5-minute chart. Well, we lost our area. We'll get back to it here in just a second. So the 5-minute area, or excuse me, 5-minute chart here, you can see that this is no longer giving us those same type of signals, right? This is no longer doing this. It's actually overbought over here. So this is on a 5-minute chart. It's overbought right here. So what you're seeing is the RSI, the relative strength index down here, will actually change based on the time frame that you're on. So if someone says that this is oversold, right? If someone says this right here is overbought, well, what time frame is it overbought? And what indicator are you using? If you're using the RSI, where is it overbought, right? Is it overbought because it's on the 5-minute time frame? Are you using a daily time frame? Are you using a monthly time frame, right? So you can use this on other time frames to really depict if this is oversold, overbought for different areas of value, right? Different time frames will show you different information. So even though in this area on a 1-minute time frame, it was giving us basically, if we're just using the RSI, it's giving us a buy signal and a sell signal. Well, it's not any longer on a 5-minute chart. So maybe, on these wider type of time frames, 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, hour, 4-hour, right? Maybe on these wider time frames, you're able to hold it a little bit longer. It's more of a trend type of hold. Or maybe if you're looking for quicker type of entries in, out, in, out, in, out, maybe you're looking at the smaller time frames like the 1, the 2, the 3-minute time frames, right? So you're going to see different values, different information on the RSI based on the time frame that you're using, right? And that's what we're getting across here. So we'll go back to the 1-minute time frame, and we'll see. I'll reset the chart because you can see that it gets a little wonky on me. Now, if I hold Control and zoom in with my mouse, you can zoom in on a specific area. And again, so you can see the differences here. You can see that it was below the line or touching the line and above the line, right? So again, above the line is overbought and below the line is oversold. So we're expecting a little bit of a retrace one way or the other. So 1-minute chart shows you these signals, great. And the 5-minute chart did not. So a 5-minute chart was completely different. Now let's take a look at the daily chart. So we'll go to the daily chart. And you guys can see that the daily chart has its own RSI as well. So over here it was overbought. That's where it peaked up right here, right? You can see this peak if I zoom in on it. Look at that. Overbought on this candle. And then retrace back down. Okay. Now let's go over here. Here's one that's oversold, right? Here's one that it went below that line right there. Below this line at the bottom, right? If you guys can see that. Not by much, but it did go below. And you can see a little retrace from there. Now, these are daily candles. So if you got filled here and you held this move, you're looking at, that's 24%, $1.59 per share. That's not bad, right? That's not bad. But a daily RSI is going to tell you the information based on a daily time frame, right? So some of these are going to be longer holds. Now, for me, I won't hold a low float stock overnight. So even though I see something like this, I wouldn't just run out and say, every stock that's low float under, 150 million share float, if it's oversold, I've got to buy this thing. We'll look for an example here. Here's a good example. So here's one right here. If I draw a line, you guys will see the RSI down below. It dipped below that line. So, it's basically telling me to buy it, right? And if I bought that, well, it didn't really work out for me. Now, this was an 11% move. That's not bad, actually. 46 cents per share. But you can see it didn't hold up. It pulled back down. It's under $2 per share, 52% down on your position, right? So it's not, a clear indication of, yes, you got to buy here, you got to buy there, right? Here's another one. It started to dip down. It did get a little bounce up. So you can look at this as a possible oversold signal on wider time frames as well. So this is on the daily time frame. You can see that, yes, we are extended. We're way above where we need to be according to the history of this RSI. And that's one thing I want to mention too, guys. If you double click on the RSI, you can actually just zoom out. Let's shrink this a little bit. Just zoom out, and you can really get a good feel for how many times does this go oversold, how many times does it go overbought, right? This is overbought here. This is overbought here. This is oversold, right? So let's see. Let's put a little thing here. So oversold. We'll duplicate that. Put it up here and overbought. Oops. So overbought. So real simple, right? This is overbought. This is oversold, right? So if we double click on the chart, we can see those areas and what happened during that time. This was obviously way up here at this time. It looks like a mess, but you guys will see here in just a minute. Oversold in this area over here. Okay, we did get a little retrace back up. Okay, overbought right here. Okay, we did pull back down. So it's not perfect, but you guys can see the value that there is there. I'm going to remove the drawings for a minute. So again, switching the time frame will show you different results. So if I go to weekly time frame, same thing. You can see that there is no time that the weekly RSI it went above this 70 level. So there's never a time that that's even happened. Now we did go below on the below 30, so we did sell off here. That's going to be on this candle. It did pop the next candle, but then continued to fade off since then. So, and you can see here, guys, if you can see this, if I zoom in a little bit, it'll probably be easier to see. You can see we were trending down below the RSI this whole time. So, you know, this candle was below the RSI. This candle was below the 30 RSI. This candle was below the 30 RSI. This is on a weekly time frame. So, you know, this would be a long hold. These are weekly candles, you know, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, right? So you'd be holding this for a very long time if you were just buying blindly because the RSI says so. So make sure you're using it in conjunction with other signals. But you can see on the weekly time frame, it's giving you indication that it could get a pop. Well, it did get a pop eventually, right? Monthly time frame, same thing. Monthly's way down here, and there's not a lot of information on this one for the monthly time frame. But if we went to something like Tesla, if I go to Tesla, you'll see that we do have information on the monthly time frame, right? And if you see the weekly time frame, you'll see that there's more information on a weekly time frame. And that's because, again, you know, Tesla's been around longer probably than BNRG. So that's what we're seeing here. So different time frames will give you different information. So switch through the time frames. You can see different information based on the time frame that you're looking at. Let me go back to BNRG. Another thing I want to show you, if I go back to the 1 minute time frame, I'm going to reset my chart. And one thing I want to show you is that this is set to the 14, right? So we're going over that. You can change this setting here, the length, and you can get different results. So I can change this to a 7. Click off, and you're going to see that it now changed, right? So if I hit cancel, if I go back to 14 and I click off, you'll see that this changes. Watch. So there we go. So this will change based on the data points that you have set. So this is going to be set to a 7 length. So hit OK. And now we're getting more signals. Basically, that's what it means. It's going to be a little bit more rapid fire. Going to get more signals. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? So if we zoom in over here again where we have that first setup here. And let's do something cool, actually. Let's add on another RSI. So let's go to, and you can do this, guys. You can add multiple, right? So I'm going to add another RSI. I'm going to change this to the, we're going to keep it to the 14. Get the middle line off. And we'll keep this one as the purple line just to know that this is the 14. So looking at this, right, we've got 2 RSIs on our chart now, 2 oscillators here. We can see that this is giving us a signal that this is overbought on both of these, both on the 14 and the 7. So maybe you're using multiple RSI values in length, right? This one's on the 14 inputs, 14. This one's inputs 7 for the length. So you can see that right here on this candle, I'll draw a line again, that it gave us that signal on the 7 length as well as the 14 length. So that was a good signal. That was nice, right? Over here, same thing. Draw a line. Same thing. Did give us the signal, did give us the signal. So on the 7, you're going to get more signals. Here's a really good example of this. Let's look at this right here. This was a nice move. This turned out to be a really nice move, and we wouldn't capture this if using just the 14 length, right? It did not oversell, so this would not be a signal. But if you draw a line here, let's see. This is the first candle that started to go oversold. This one as well. So these 2 candles on the 7 length were oversold. You can see below that. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then same with this right here and right here. So these candles were as well. This was a nice move to capture, right? This was a really nice move to capture. So you can see that you can capture different types of moves by adjusting the settings in the RSI itself, in the inputs. So by having this on here, you can see different things. Now, a lot of our code will be built into this where you don't have to be looking at multiple oscillators on one chart, because if you start stacking too many things on here, it starts to become a little overwhelming, right? It can become a little overwhelming. So we have indicators that will actually do that for you. So if you go to our indicators tab and go to invite only, we'll go look for, let's see, the oversold spotter right here. Oversold spotter. I'll add that to the chart. Click that on, and you don't see much there yet. But you can go into the settings, and what you'll see is that the settings are already preset for you to the 7 length. 84 is actually the oversold area, and 20 is going to be, 84 is for overbought. So instead of using the 70 line, this line right here, 70, we have it set to 84. And this is for the 7 length. That's what it's optimized for. Now you can change this. If you want to change that to 14, you can do so, right? You can do it like that, or you can change it to back down to the 7. That's the way we have it set. Oversold level is going to be 20. So we move this down. Instead of 30, we moved it down to 20. So we're basically looking for extreme conditions. These are extreme conditions only. That's what it's looking for. Let's see. We'll put the labels on so you guys can see that, make it a little bit easier. If you don't have the labels on, that's how you do that, guys. Go to Style. You can turn it on and off. What you'll also notice is that our indicators is changing the color of the background. So if you wanted to do that, right, so whenever it's oversold and it's below the line here, you're going to see that it's going to color the area green, and vice versa. If it's overbought, it's going to color it red. So hit OK. Did we turn off the settings there? Let me turn the labels back on. That'll make it easier. I don't need the labels, but if you prefer to have those, we do have those set on there. So you can see here, okay. So this was supposed to be showing us signals here, but it's not. Why is it not giving us signals? The reason it's not giving us signals is because, again, it's set to 84 and 20. So not the 70 line and the 30 line. It's set to extreme values only. You can adjust this by coming into the inputs. We can go to 70 and 30. I'll hit OK. And what you're going to see is now it's giving you those signals. So instead of having the RSI on your chart, I'm going to double click on the chart itself. You can now see this, the area of the chart is now changing colors based on that information. So it's a real simple indicator, right? But it's a really great indicator for identifying the areas of value. Now you can change the colors of the background. You can change the opacity. It's really up to you what colors you want. Now you could also stack these. You could have 2 of these on your chart. You don't have to have just the one. You can have 2, and you can color those differently. You can have the settings differently as well. So if you wanted to have multiple types of RSI settings on here, you could do that. So if you wanted to have the 14 and the 7, you could do that. If you wanted to have the 70 and 30, or you wanted just the 84 and the 20 extremes, you could do that as well. So you can show some combinations there. Now, not all of these are going to be perfect. As I mentioned, this one right here, it did retrace back up. It's not a full reversal. It then came further down below, right? So there's a way of finding that as well. We'll go over in just a minute. But you guys can see now this indicator is letting you know, okay, it's overbought here. Look for a little retrace. Overbought here. Look for a retrace. So retrace, extreme values, right? Doesn't mean that the move is over. Just means that it's extreme. Now, right here, it's not showing us that that's the top of the move, right? So this extreme value is not saying that, hey, it's overbought here. And so according to our settings, it's not. But again, if you adjust these, so go back to 70 and 30, you'll have more signals, right? So if you want to have more signals, you can do so, right? Just like that. So it's basically saying, every time it's green, we can buy for a possible bounce. Every time it's red, we got to sell our position, or we can short it, right? So that's basically how I look at it. So very, very simple. Let's go in here and I'm not sure why the label's turned off on this, but we'll look into this. We'll go back to 84 and 20. Turn the labels off, turn them back on. Okay. All right. So if I double click, that's just basically our indicator. Instead of having the RSI on your chart, you can see how that might be easier to not have as much on your chart at one time and still have that information. So if I hide these lines for a minute here, hide the drawings, you can see it's a little bit cleaner. If you don't want the labels, you don't have to have those either. You can turn the labels off. There you go. And you can see it's a little bit cleaner, right? Now, this is extreme conditions, so you're going to have less results. That's going to be with the 7 and 84. If you want to adjust, move this. If you want to adjust that as well in the RSI, double click on your chart. You have the RSI back on your chart here. You can adjust this in here as well. So if you want to adjust these lines, you can go into the lines here and adjust 84 and 20. And this is what we found is most optimized for low float stocks for the most part. Now, that being said, we do have another indicator out that's going to be adjusted based on what you see here. So a few of our indicators are actually dynamically changing that value as, you know, this again is a general rule of thumb. By setting the settings here at 84 and at 20, what that's doing is giving a general rule of thumb. So it's not dynamically changing with whatever stock you're looking at. So this is general, right? This is basically saying any stock that goes over that level is overbought. Any stock that goes below this level is oversold, right? It's just general conditions there. Now you can actually update this dynamically, which we'll save for another time, but we have that built into a lot of our code as well, where it's dynamically adjusting based on the ticker and time frame that you're looking at. So it may be changing dynamically with the time frame, also with the ticker that you change to. So if I go to a 5-minute chart here, you'll see again different signals, and now we have extreme values only. Reset the chart here. Extreme signals. So this was extreme oversold. This was extreme overbought. If you bought and sold in this area, you guys can see in this extreme area. If you bought in this green area, sold in this red area, right? That's 80%. That's $1 per share, right? That's, again, a lot of traders in our chat are looking, or a lot of traders in general are looking for 10, 20 cents per share. They'll lock in the profit and walk away and be done for the day, you know? So, you know, if you're more of a trend trader looking at these wider time frames, looking at these signals on a wider time frame, they may give you some kind of conviction here of, you know, it's overbought, oversold, but on extreme conditions and on wider time frames, that's a good combination, right? You're combining a wider time frame with extreme conditions and looking for entries and exits based on that. Now, combine that with other information, you can find yourself some really great entries and really great exit points as well. You can see right here on the chart, it was extended on the first move. There's your one candle pullback. Started to come back up, extended again, one candle pullback, went up. Now we've seen this continue up. I've seen this plenty of times, guys, where you've seen it just goes up, you know, 5, 10 candles in a row and it's all red, right? So it's all overbought. It can happen. Same thing with, again, oversold. It can happen. So there is nothing perfect, guys. Let's get that out of the way already. Let's make sure that there is nothing perfect in this market. So this, again, is just one of many ways you can depict, is the stock oversold, overbought? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? That's all we're trying to figure out, right? So keep it simple. Above this line, it should basically pull back. Below this line, it should basically start to bounce back up, right? It's not a definite, but it can happen. You can see it was below the line here. It bounced back up. You can see it was above the line here. It faded back off. It did make new highs, but this right here is going to be RSI divergence, which is something that we'll go over in another session. But RSI divergence, just to quickly touch base on this, means, to keep it simple again, is, as you guys can see here, let me get rid of the second RSI. We'll just keep the one for now, make it easier. What you'll see here is that the RSI peaked right here, right, on this candle. So let me draw a line here. That's where it peaked. You can't see the line. Delete the lines, and we'll draw a line right here. So this is where it peaked, right? This is where the RSI down here peaked. Okay. So we can see it then retrace back down, but then it made new highs. But what you'll notice is the RSI did not make new highs. This is called RSI divergence. This means that even though the price is making new highs, the RSI is not making new highs. There's a divergence in price here. There's a divergence happening in the RSI. What this typically means is this is a weak new high or a breakout type of level, right? So even though it's breaking out, it's actually showing signs of weakness because it's not peaking on the RSI. It already peaked over here. So we want to see this getting back above that for it to really show signs of strength. The fact that it's not means it's not actually a strong signal. And you can see it's now fading back off. And again, we'll dive into this further down the road. But this is RSI divergence. Same thing with, if we look at, let's see if I can find one on the other side. Right here, it looks like it basically fell to the lows here. Let's see if I can do this here. There we go. All right, you can see, get rid of this. I'm not sure why I add that. Down here, you can see that it was hitting lows. Well, the price was continuing to make new lows right here, right? So right here, the RSI peaked at the low there, or fell down to the low. It continued to gap back up here, or continued to hit lows on the RSI, and the price continued to gap down too as the RSI started to pick back up. You notice how right here the RSI is picking back up. So this was the low point. This was higher than this low point. So it's RSI divergence. So even though the price continues to make new lows, the RSI is no longer making new lows. There's some divergence there. Typically, that means that it's going to start to retrace a little bit, and you can see that on this move right here, it did retrace back up. Doesn't mean it's a full reversal. There's nothing that's going to be a sure thing in this market where you can say, oh, I just trade this signal over and over, and that's a reversal, right? So it's tough to be able to really depict that. This is the final move, and this is going to, from here, it's going to bounce up, to make new highs. That's not what we're saying. It's not going to make new highs. We're saying that it's typically an area of value where short sellers are looking to cover. You may get a little bounce. You can see that you get a small bounce in here if you're buying this candle and selling it here, you're getting 12%, almost 20 cents per share. Again, that's a really nice gain on something like this. So guys, this is a 5-minute chart. This is RSI divergence. We'll dive into this a little bit differently or another time. You can see that we did not peak at certain areas. We have this extreme values. You don't have to have extreme values. You can have this less. You can have this turned down to, go to the inputs. Or go to the style. Change this back to 70, which is what's going to happen when you guys first load it up to your chart. And you can see that you have different areas of value here. So you can see right here. So that's pretty much it, guys. The RSI is an oscillator, right? It's just a line, right? It's just down here. Above these lines and levels is going to let you know that it's overbought or oversold. It's one of many indicators that you can use to depict if the stock is overbought or oversold, right? You can check different time frames. You can check a 10-minute time frame. You can see that right here. We had multiple candles. So this is a good example as well. What if you're just selling on that first candle or not buying because you're seeing this type of move? Well, maybe you missed out on this other price action right here, which you wouldn't think it's a lot, but if you measure this up, it's 30%. So maybe you held off, you missed out on 30%. It is what it is. Or maybe you're conservative and saying, you know what, I'm using this to aid me in entry and exit, and also some warning there. And on a 10-minute chart, it is extended. Maybe I'll wait for a little cool off or breather. You can see on a 10-minute chart, we never did have an extreme sell-off here. So let me change the settings back to 70 and 30. Let's see what happens. So 70. And again, play with the settings, guys, and see what works for you. So 70 and 30, you can see that right here. This whole thing was overbought, right? The whole thing was overbought and saying be careful. Then it was overbought again. Fell back down. Here's an oversold. Here's our first oversold mark right here. And from there, it did make a very nice move. Overbought again, retrace back down. Overbought, but it was overbought here. So if you are just selling on the first overbought or you weren't taking the trade, which is absolutely fine, that means you're being selective. And that's actually really good for being selective is how you're going to be consistent over a long time of trading, in my experience anyways. But this is 27% and 51 cents per share on this move. So if you weren't buying on this candle, that's absolutely fine, but maybe you miss out on something like this, but you have to, stick to your strategy and what keeps you profitable. Retrace back down, overbought again, retrace back down. So maybe if you're short selling, these two signals here are giving you a strong conviction that on a 10-minute time frame it's oversold. Here's a good example right here, guys. This one's showing you that it's overbought. If you bought this candle, this next candle, you're not making any money. Right? There was no money to be made here. So that's a false break. That's not happening. Here's another one here that end up being, something, but not much. Let's see what this is. Again, these are 10-minute candles. So 20 cents per share. That's not bad. 10%. It's, you have to hold it for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes about for it to happen. But that's okay. If you're looking for a trend type of trades, then you can use wider time frames. If you're looking for sharp, quick moves, scalps, fast trades, get in, green out type things, then 1, 2 minute, 3 minute. So again, adjusting the time frame, adjusting the settings for the RSI, which this is our indicator. You don't have to have that indicator. If you want to just use the RSI oscillator that's down here, you can do that. And again, you just come in here and you can adjust the settings through the style here. You can adjust the lines and levels that you want to see, that where it's overbought or oversold. And you can basically adjust the inputs here. Instead of having 7, you can have 14. Or maybe you want to have this even wider. Maybe you want to have it on maybe like a 21 or something for a monthly chart or whatever it may be. So again, play around with this, guys. Play around with the settings. Play around with the RSI. See how you can see value. If you go to different names like Tesla, you can see value here as well. So if I turn this, let's see, the RSI is down below. You can see right here was an area of interest. So let's go right here. This was one right here, right? It was overbought. It was extreme. It did retrace back down. Okay. Right here, it looks like it was oversold. Okay, that's right around here. Okay, that was a move up, right? So you can see different moves here. Here's another extreme at the top here, at the top of this move. So you can see right here, this was extreme, right? And right here, you can see it was extreme the other way, right? Right down here. And if you double click on the RSI, you can see all of that. You can zoom out. Love doing this, guys, because then you can get a good indication of where the stock is really typically oversold. Because even though, you know, above this is overbought and below this is oversold, you can see that it dipped below this quite often, right, on Tesla. So again, you can actually draw on this. So I can draw a line here, Alt-H, and I can adjust this line wherever I want it to be. I can say, you know what? It looks like, you know, it tapped this area a little bit more than it did here. So maybe this zone, right, we're making this like a zone, is the area of value for me. So anytime it gets in this zone, that's where I'm looking for. Here's another really great tip. You can actually click on this line, and you can add an alert. I believe you can. Here it is. Add an alert here. So now you can add the alert on this horizontal line. So when the RSI crosses this line, and you can determine if it's crossing below, crossing up, if it's greater than, less than, you can do whatever you want. You can have it once per bar close, once per minute, whatever you prefer. You can do that on this line. So if you draw a line on your RSI and you have this as your zone, you say, you know what? If it hits that level line, I want to get that alert. You can do that. Just set this alert just like that, and boom. You're done, right? Just hit it, create, and you have an alert on this chart. Move it up to the high side, same thing. Okay, you say, you know what, above this, sure, that is overbought. That is, you know, that is something that I want to keep in mind. But you can see that Tesla typically reaches to about this area here as well, right? Or you can adjust that a little bit more, maybe bring it down just a little bit. And maybe you say, again, once it gets in this zone, right, instead of just using that single line as its own thing, you can see that maybe it's giving you some signals that this is the area of value for a possible retrace, right? This zone here. And if you want to set the alert, click on the line, add alert. There you go. You can do so, right? Let's reset here. And that's just a really great way. So you can go through different names, guys. You can do this on multiple names. So if you want to get alerts when the RSI reaches a certain level, you can do that. So if you go to, say, BNRG, okay, let's zoom out, right? Make it easy. BNRG. Okay, it looks pretty good. I think this is actually working for this one, but we can, again, add that line. So Alt-H, and then adjust it to where I think most of these are hitting, right? So I'm looking at this peak, this peak, this peak, this peak, right? This peak, this peak, this peak. Okay, great. Right? So now we have a zone. Now we have an area of value. Now we have an area that we're looking for. And maybe we can move this down just a little bit to there. And now basically what it's saying is 77 is actually the line instead of 70. So this first line that comes with the RSI is 70. You can adjust that, but we now have a line that we manually put on the RSI chart at 77. You can do that for down below as well. So let's look at this. Let's reset this. Let's zoom out. Looks like a mess, right? Just bear with me. Alt-H. Okay. So 25. So basically what this is saying is it's extreme oversold if it goes below 25. It's extreme overbought if it goes above 77. So again, if you have the RSI settings and you're looking at just one specific ticker or stock that day, you can adjust the settings in our indicator as well. So if I double click on this, and again, if you have the invite only, you have the oversold indicator here. If I can find it, here it is, oversold spotter. Then again, if you know that on BNRG the setting should be 77.25, you can actually set it to that. So you can come in here and say, you know what, I'm going to do 76, and we'll do 24, right? So anything below that, anything above that is oversold. And actually, I think I need to move that up to 25, and we'll move this one to we'll put it at 77. And there you go. And now you have that in line with what you have down here, what you're seeing down here. So this is extreme, this is extreme, this is extreme, right? So those are going to be your extreme entries and exits if you're using this for that type of entry and exit signal here. So again, guys, just a quick recap. You can switch the RSI through different time frames. So try different time frames with this. See what it looks like. As you can see on the weekly time frame, it was oversold on many of these candles here, and these are weekly candles, so you have to hold for a long time. Same thing with the daily. Wider time frame is going to show you a different setup here. So maybe it works best on a certain time frame that you find. So experiment with different time frames. Experiment with different settings. You can go into our indicator and change it. You can go into this indicator, change it. Change the length settings. Change the style settings right here, the upper band and the lower band. Change these settings around. Really play with it and see what you like about it, what you dislike about it, and see if you can add this to your strategy that you're using already. So if you already have a strategy that's working for you, see if this can enhance the results on top of that. If you don't have a strategy, well, use this to start the base for your strategy, or use this as one of many conditions as a base for your strategy and start building on it, right? You can build from there. Switch from different time frames. It's really important. Different tickers will show you different results. Obviously, Tesla is a large cap, so our indicator is not going to be built specifically for it. But you can see that there is opportunities here as well. And this actually will work for SPY as well. So let's go to SPY for a minute here. I'm going to turn off the RSI down here because the RSI is built into this indicator. And you can see, look at this. On a SPY 1 minute chart, it was oversold. It was overbought. This right here, though, was kind of messy. So let's turn this to, let's do the normal 70-30. So 70 and 30, which is going to be even worse, right? And then we're going to change this. Instead of a 1 minute time frame, a lot of traders trading SPY might be using maybe a 15-minute time frame. Let's take a look at it on 15-minute. So all the signals here, you can see, okay, it was entering oversold. So enters oversold, okay. And then it bounced back up. Enters overbought. Let's see. Enters overbought. It did go up from there, then faded off. Let's see. Enters overbought. So you can see a lot of signals. So again, if we pull up the RSI here, I think I must have got rid of. So the relative strength index, put it at the bottom of the chart. Double click on this. I'm going to take off that moving average. I don't need that. And let's double click on the RSI here for SPY. And again, you can do this to any ticker, guys, any ticker. I'm just adjusting this, zooming out with my mouse, and now I will look for the extremes. So, okay, let's say right here. I think right here and right here is maybe a good zone. And let's see this to say about here, right? So, okay, so now we have the values. So 1630, 87. Okay, let's double click. Let's reset this. All right, let's go to our indicator here. Let's change the settings based on this. So if I want to leave this on SPY alone, we can do so. So 77. And let's see. Actually 87. We'll do the extremes only. So 87. And looks like 16. We'll do 16. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to get rid of the this for now. I'm just going to double click on the chart. So the RSI is now turned off. You can see now we're only getting extreme alerts here. Okay. Enters oversold. Yes, it did get a small bounce here. It didn't fade it off after that. This one entered oversold. This was a nicer move. Let's see what else we have. Overbought right here. We get our overbought signal. Yes, it did fall down from there and faded off. So again, it's not the only signal that you can use, and it's going to have stronger results on certain tickers, opposed to others. This indicator that we have specifically built, as you load it up, it's going to be built more for low float stocks. But again, I do use this on my SPY analysis as well. So if SPY is extremely overbought or extremely oversold, then, it could still give areas of value, right? So you can see that, maybe this in conjunction with other signals was giving me strong conviction that this is the area that I want to buy on SPY, and maybe it worked out to be a really great trade, right? Some of these traders trading SPY would be trading options, things like that. So it's only 2%, right? It's not crazy. It's $12 per share. But if you're trading options, this could, amount to a very, very nice gain. So keep that in mind, guys. Different settings, different tickers, different time frames. They're all going to give you different results according to the RSI. And again, this is one of many ways, guys, to find whether the stock is going to bounce or if it's going to drop. It's one of many ways. Use this in conjunction with other signals, indicators, and volume, things like that. That's going to give you indication whether it's strong or it's a weaker move, right? So I think that's about it, guys. Just a quick rundown on the RSI. That's the RSI oscillator down here. Let me delete everything off my chart here. I'll put the RSI back on here. So if you go to the technicals, relative strength index, add this to your chart. That's how it's going to look when you load it up. And it's going to be very simple, right? Above these lines are overbought. Below these lines are oversold. You can adjust the settings just by double clicking on it. You can change the length. You can change the style here. You can change those lines. So maybe you want 80 and 20 to be a little bit more extreme. You can do that. Okay. I don't like the moving average on there. Maybe you find value with the moving average. I don't use it, guys, so I don't know much about how to use that to aid me. So maybe you use it. Maybe you find a way for it to be something that's going to provide some value. But that's the RSI, guys. Very simple here explanation. Above the line is overbought. Below the line is oversold. Simple, simple, simple. That's how we like to keep it around here. But, guys, that's going to be it for today's video and today's session. This is the relative strength index. It's one of many indicators that can aid in entry, exit. It can also help if you already have an established strategy that's working for you. Use this in conjunction with it. Maybe you find a little bit more successful with your entries and exits, and maybe not. Maybe it's something that's not really useful. There is other indicators that will do this as well. The MACD will be very similar to this. The stochastic will be very similar to this. The reason we went over the RSI is I think this is the most commonly used indicator by many traders. And again, you can use this to find swing trades. So if you're looking to be a swing trader, you can do that as well by using this here. As you can see, extreme oversold on the weekly time frame for SPY. That's down here below, and look at that move that it made. So you can find this for possible signals on wider time frames as well. Go to a monthly time frame. Same thing. This is now telling you that this is becoming overbought, and then all of a sudden we did get a retrace back down to here and down to here as well, but we did make new highs after that. So don't use it by itself. Don't use it solely by itself, guys. Use it in conjunction with other indicators, other technical breakouts such as volume and price action, and of course your key levels. And this is going to be a great tool that you can utilize every day. So, guys, that's about it. I hope you learned something today. That's the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. A quick rundown, quick breakdown of this. I will send out this video to you guys, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We've got the Get Help form. Reach out to me anytime. We'll go over any questions that you guys have. But I do appreciate you spending some time with me this Saturday. Hope everyone has a great long weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday back here in our Discord. Thanks, guys.